Welcome to the Scot Ferrell Show. Thanks so much for dropping by today. If you have any questions, you always go to my website, scotferrell.com. Remember, that's one T. I still don't know why my mom and dad actually spelled my name that way, but hey, that's how they did it. ScotFerrell.com. Also, if you have anything you want to drop by for the show, any of the questions you'd like for me to answer on the air, it's show@scotferrell.com. All right, I got a great show today. Live Your Dreams is the title. My guest today is Steve Wall. He's the head of the Talent Farm.net. So if you want to go check out Steve and all the people in his stable, it's talentfarm.net. Also, I used to be part of that farm. No, I didn't leave because he's so terrible. I left because I was sick and dying. But now I'm back up and going. And it's always great to have somebody who's like a brother, a mentor, come by and share his knowledge with me. Great stories coming up. We're going to talk about fame. We're going to talk about music, talk about the music industry, the radio industry, and we're going to talk about family. Why would I call it the Live Your Dream Show? Because Steve and I have been able to live our dreams. Steve really is great. He's got two wonderful young women at home. That's who Julie is young. And he's got the ultimate story for family. Lovely daughter, dog. He's got the picket fence in the house. So it is a dream come true. He's Ward and June Cleaver with only one daughter. But it's going to be a great time, great stories. You don't want to miss this. And if you've got a dream you've been working on, listen to Steve's story because he is proof that dreams can come true. Steve, thanks so much for stopping by today.
I don't know if I can live up to all that, but thank you, Scott. Nice to see you, man.
I had a guy introduce me on TV one day, and I said, could you be my mom? My mom never talked that good about me. Could you come over and be my mom? All right, brother. It is so great. I go to the website, talentfarm.net, and I did not realize, I forgot about Rusty Humphreys, but I forgot about Man Cow. And I stay in touch with him every now and then. I'll send him a little note. And I almost ended up on his show one day, and I can't remember why it didn't happen. But Man Cow, if you're listening, great show. Who else you got on deck right now that's really somebody we need to listen to?
There's a lot of great talent out there. And the reality is the up and coming talent, the talent for tomorrow hasn't really been discovered.
Yeah.
They're the influencers. They're online. They're creating content. I mean, I hired some great talent right off the street. I hired a girl once in a drive-through. I hired a guy once in Salina, Kansas. I hired a guy who was waiting tables at a truck stop. He just had a personality and a great voice. Ended up taking him around to a couple of different markets. We've been blessed. I had a general manager years ago call me a talent magnet, and I said, well, I remember I go back to a time like my first PD job. I was 18.
Right.
They fired the program director. I'd been a DJ for 3 years prior to that, but the GM hired me and said, look, just promise me you'll always hire people as talented as you or more talented.
Right.
I mean, you do that, you're going to be fine. And so anytime we had an opening, it was like, I got to find somebody better than that. Right. And that happened with Mancow, and that was tough. We went 6 months without a morning guy, and I was filling in for Mancow, or I was filling in for Walt Jackson when he left, and Walt was a friend of Rick Dees, and he ended up going to work with Dees. And so I was doing mornings, and I almost hired a guy from Seattle, and I was looking at a guy from Portland, and we did not have a lot of money. Kadon in the Salinas, Santa Cruz, Monterey market, I think our budget for mornings was $40,000, and this is 1991-ish.
Wow.
But people thought, you're making six figures in California.
Yeah.
I mean, part of the pay was the Bay. That was where you get to live. So one day I just get this tape of bits and stunts, and it's all these crazy things. And it said Mancow, and I listened to it. It was hilarious. And I called him up. I said, do you have anything where you're introing songs? And no, I just do all these stunts. And he did it for the Randy Miller show. And I said, well, this is great. Do you have anything else? So he sent me another tape. Finally, I said, look, I've got to run this by the guys who signed the checks. I'm going to need to play them something where you're not just introing songs, maybe talking to somebody else doing something. He goes, well, when Randy's gone, I fill in. I said, well, send me that. It took me no time at all to convince the VP of programming, oh, yeah, this is our guy. We brought him in, and it was hilarious. I've been doing the show for 6 months, and we were trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we do this? What's the transition? And I've been at the station for about 3 years as Monterey Jack, And so I said, let's just give away the show. MTV just gave away a house. Oh, actually, they gave away a radio station. Let's give away the morning show.
Right.
So we set it up one morning on a Friday morning back in October in 1991. We took caller 13, and he faked that he was working at Garlic World, and from there the show was on Monday. I mean, he had jingles, he had produced bits, he had so many bits. I mean, it sounded like that show had been there forever.
Yeah,
And we actually increased the ratings. Yeah.
almost crashed my car one day listening to him. I was laughing so hard. So he's always been somebody I just enjoyed listening to because he's so crazy. I mean, you never know what the guy's going to do. Oh man,
when did you first get introduced to the show?
Oh my gosh, it's been years.
So 91 would have been K-Dawn. 92, 93 would have been Wild. We launched Wild 107 about a year later.
I'm trying
Both
to
of us
remember.
ended up getting pushed out. And then he went to the rock station.
Yeah.
After the haircut stunt, he went to the rock station. Then he ended up in Chicago. You probably heard him out of Chicago.
Probably
or did you hear him when he was doing talk radio?
Both. I think it was Chicago because I used to go to Chicago quite often, and then definitely I picked him up with talk radio because that's what I do.
Yeah.
Now moving, let me ask you this because you're in the bloodline of Charlie Tuna and Wolfman Jack, and Wolfman Jack's the reason I wanted to do radio. What was it like?
Me too.
Being part of that.
Well, it's incredible. Charlie was amazing. He was the nicest, friendly, most down-to-earth guy, and he was still on top of tech. I mean, we had some issues come up, and he'd say, well, what if we do this? What if we do that? And I'm like, dude, that's freaking great. Let's do that. And then we launched, his daily show and syndication, and we launched some 24/7 formats. And then one day he died, and he was healthy, but he drank too much Diet Coke or whatever. And anyway, it was sad. And so his kids really didn't want to move forward with anything. They took about, they just said, look, we're going to digitize, we're going to take a break. We brought Charlie back last year, and we've got the 70s show, and that's back in syndication, and that's growing. Actually, just got another call yesterday from somebody asking if Charlie was available. Wolfman came to me during COVID. His son called me up one day and said, hey, look, we're doing this. They're not happy with the distributor. The company that was trying to get the show played on radio stations was just giving it away. They weren't making any money. I don't think Wolfman's family needs to make money, but there should be compensation.
Yeah.
There should be. If you're playing the show, you're building your brand. This is Wolfman Jack. I've got 300 shows from his in our Wolfman Jack 60s, 70s show. We've got a couple of hundred we started doing classic rock and classic hits in 2020 because Todd, Wolfman's son, has digitized all of his old air checks and he's constantly digitizing content. So we have the ability to make new shows. And he was doing interviews with the Bon Jovi and Tom Petty. All this is relevant. We've had people say, is that AI? Absolutely no. This is Wolfman. Right now, the Wolfman documentary is in process. I just saw another sizzle reel this morning. It's amazing. And we're not sure. Is it a movie? Is it a series? Is it a documentary? There might be multiple things come out of that. But like you, I grew up. I remember in the 5th grade. Oh, this is Wolfman Jack. Doing my impression of that. Yep. And the kids would get around me like, "You're weird," and I was. But I had no idea. I wanted to be in radio from the time I was little. I lucked into a gig when I was almost 16, 15 years old. And had no idea it'd become a job. When I heard Dee's was making $1 million, I think I was about 18. I'm like, I could do this for a living. Never made $1 million, but it was inspiring, right? There's money there. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, if you're our age now, millennials Y and Z, listen up to me. Look these people up on the internet, please, because you don't understand talent until you've listened to these guys. But it's like with Rick Deves, Casey Kasem, all these guys, Charlie. You sit and go, they don't even make it look like it's work. It's just some guy enjoying music, talking about music, and you just go, it's so effortless. But then you and I got into business. Okay, it's not effortless, but they made it seem that way. And they were the consummate professionals. And I still listen to their stuff because I was hooked on it. But, we're in our 60s. But if you're Gen Z, check it out. You don't know what you miss not being our age. Now, let me ask you about that. You're 16 going to be a DJ. Was that normal in the business at the time?
Well, the longer I've been in the business, the more I find people or hear
Yeah.
about people who've been doing this since they were 15, 16 years old. I think in these small towns, these opportunities, um, at that time, I mean, all the DJs that were on the station were fairly young. There was a 15, 16-year-old that was working there. And when the night job came open, he should have got the gig, but
Right.
because he was like a football star, he was a sports star on his high school team, he couldn't do the gig. My first night on the air, Terry Sperry was the DJ, and she started training me. And I picked it up quick because I'd been doing dances and stuff with my stereo system. And she goes, "Will you pick this up quick? I'm going to go get a hamburger. You want something?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, whatever." She never came back. I get
Wow.
a phone call about 1 in the morning from the GM, and he's like, "Hey, man, why are you still on the air?" I'm like, "Oh, where's Terry?" And I'm like, "I don't know." So he taught me how to shut the station off because back then we'd shut the station off at midnight. And the next day he called me and he goes, "Look," he goes, "You picked it up pretty quick. I heard a couple things, come on in." And he literally that night offered me 6 to midnight, Monday through Friday.
Wow.
And I was doing a full-time, yeah, I had a full-time radio show. That became more important to me than anything, right?
Yeah.
And it was something that just happened. I continue to hear stories and learn about very similar stories, people who got into it. And I had no idea in McCook, Nebraska, I would end up in San Diego or
Yeah.
Nashville or the Bay Area or Denver or any of the markets, Kansas City. That
You've been
I
in
had
some
no idea.
crazy great markets, and I was lucky. I grew up in
Very blessed.
Charlotte, Cleveland. You always got the new music. WROQ in Charlotte, and the
Yeah.
funny thing was, I used to listen to Davidson College Radio, and at the time they were the best DJs. They were all Davidson students, but the funny thing was they had REM come to campus one day, and none of us knew who they
Wow.
were. I think 50 people showed up.
Wow.
Nobody knew who they were. This was
Right.
I was still in high school, and they were still at Georgia, I think. And it's hilarious now. I look forward and go, "Oh my gosh!" It's like Hootie and the Blowfish used to come to my college. You couldn't get 45 people to come see them.
Yeah.
And then I started dating Dean's next door neighbor in college, and then she
Wow.
goes, "Do you want to?" They invited me to several shows. I never went. Not a big fan of their
Yeah.
music, but they were really cool. But it's funny to look now and go, couldn't get 45 people at my college or at Davidson College when REM was there, and now look at
Yeah.
them. It's
Right.
like you've had a chance to rub elbows with so many people in the industry. But I got to ask about. There's a story, folks. I got to have him tell because it's about Kevin Bacon. I almost peed my pants. You told me about it the first time, and I thought it was so funny. Will you please tell that story about Kevin calling you?
Well, we were in. I'm guessing this is a
Yeah,
story.
it is.
I was in Nashville. Love Nashville, and wasn't there very long. And we had a morning show opening, and all of a sudden I get this FedEx, and it's a letter from Kevin Bacon telling me to hire this girl that had applied.
Okay.
And yeah, yeah, I'm like, holy crap. So I didn't believe it. And his phone number was on the list. His phone number was on it. So we called him up. And he said, "Really? You're calling me out on this?" And I'm like, huh? I
What?
mean, I had Neil Diamond called me back in '85, and we said, "This is Neil Diamond." I'm like, "No, it isn't," and hung up. He called back. He goes, "Nobody hangs up on Neil Diamond." Right? Somebody calls you and they tell you there's somebody,
Yeah.
you're not going to believe them. So yeah, but and she was great. And I think I still have that letter somewhere. But yeah, that was
So you really experienced 1 degree from Kevin Bacon.
right. And now you're 1 degree
Now I'm
from Kevin.
two, I guess, since I didn't get to talk to
Two,
him.
yeah, right. 2 degrees. I'm bad with math. Right.
Yeah, and then it's all the stars. You got Michael Jackson, Will Smith. We were talking earlier before we started taping. Tell me the story you told before we got on the air. I've got to let
That's a
everybody hear that.
mistake, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I
By the way.
apologize. I apologize.
Here, no, no, no. Here's the thing, and this is an old thing that we learned doing interviews, and so this is setting you up for your next one when you actually have a celebrity on.
You are a
I'm
celebrity.
serious. You start recording the minute you get him on the phone, because if you start talking to him,
Oh
this
yeah.
little warm up that we did, stuff came out that was natural, and I told you stuff now that I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
sure I want to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my
But
God.
anyway, I'm sorry.
Now we're
How
married.
can
If
I
you
help?
don't know, I'm not going to tell you. Yeah, tell the story about the cruise. That is absolutely
Oh,
wonderful of what they did.
I mean, first of all, we love music. We love if a song came in and I liked it, I popped it on the air. We were the first station in the country to play Shaggy, "Oh Carolina."
Oh
He
wow,
came and did a concert for us on the roof at Tower Records in San Diego. That was huge.
wow.
We were early on the summertime Fresh Smith, and then boom, Shake the Room, and we just kept hitting those. And Mark Cargill and Jack Satter were running Jive Records, and I heard there might be an opportunity for a promotion with Will Smith, and I said, "Oh my God, let's do this. Let's do a
Wow.
cruise with Will Smith and Fresh Prince." It was Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince out on the bay. So we got a yacht. The label paid for all this, by the way.
Wow.
I look back and go, man, that was expensive.
Wow.
They flew in Will Smith. We picked him up in our bus. We have a monster, rock star bus with Z90 on it. We picked him up. He was blown away by that. We took him right to the harbor. We got on this yacht, and we had been doing a promotion, win dinner with the Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff, and we gave it away to 100 girls. It was a date with Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff. So no, we didn't have any guys even try to win the contest. So we took them out. We fed them fed them a nice
Right.
meal. The cruise was supposed to last for 2 or 3 hours. It went to like 5. Will Smith went around to every person at every table and talked to them. Some of them gave him, and this was back in the early '90s.
Oh
So
yeah.
he's like on a cell phone, a big block cell phone, making
Oh
a
yeah.
call to somebody's friend because they didn't believe it. The end of the night, we were down in the bottom of the boat, and there was a piano, and him and he sang "Hard to Say Goodbye" by Boyz II Men. We left there, went to the station, cut some IDs and stuff, and then he went. They flew out that night, but it was incredible, and he was so generous and kind. I saw him 2 years later in Vegas. I just happened to be in Vegas at a convention, and I'm walking into a hotel, and he's like, "Big Steve!" And the fact he remembered me. I mean, we did spend 6 or 7 hours together, but I've ran into him a couple of times, and it blows my mind that he still remembered me.
Because you're sexy, man. You're hard to forget, right? All right, so let's talk about Michael Jackson, one of my favorite artists, and my buddy Tommy Baylor, who just passed away in March. I think arranged every
Right.
album Michael ever did, and Tommy was a good friend of mine. And I always think about him when I hear "She's Out of My Life" because he wrote it, and the story behind it's
Wow.
just amazing. But you've got your own Jackson story,
Well, years ago, this was the Bad Tour.
right?
They were flying program directors in to have dinner with Michael Jackson. And we weren't sure it was going to happen. They told us it was going to happen. They said, no matter what, we're going to bring you there. You're going to have a meal. And we were all there, and he was a little late, but he showed up. He had his own chef. He did not eat what we were eating,
Right.
but he sat at the head of the table and was very kind. I think we got pictures somewhere. I've got a picture, um, but he wouldn't shake your hand. There was just so many different
Right.
things, but it was very cool. And I mean, I'll bet we were probably around him for about an hour, maybe. But that was cool. I mean, labels would do that, frequently. An opportunity would come up, and if you were at one of the important radio stations in the country that broke music, and what that means
Oh yeah.
is they'd send you records and you'd play them.
Right.
You didn't just go, well, we'll get to it when it's a hit.
Right.
We were making up the back chart of Radio and Records and Billboard magazine. We'd play records before anybody else did, which influenced other radio stations around the country. And I mean, my first year in Salina, Kansas at 99 kg, I got over 100 gold and platinum albums. It was
Wow.
ridiculous. And I don't know if they knew. I mean, the labels were just, "Oh, you did this." They did send it out and send it out. Some of my family has. My brother's got probably 20 gold albums, but my grandpa and grandma used to have, I think, Miami Sound Machine and the
Wow.
Fabulous Thunderbirds. When you walked in their house, you saw this gold album. You're like, "Who is this? Who's this Steve guy?" So, but yeah, it's been an amazing career. The people I've got to meet and hang out with, just I had no idea that would ever be a part of this journey when I was 15, 16 years old.
Oh, I know it. When we would lay in the backyard of my house and dream about the future, and I'm the only guy that's not in NASCAR. All my buddies went on to be crew chiefs, from
Really?
Jeff Gordon. I'm in the Earnhardt family. Dale Earnhardt's my cousin, and I don't like
Wow.
racing. And
Yeah.
but all my
I
buddies
love
have already
racing.
retired.
Let's
Yeah,
do this.
yeah. It's so funny. And now, fast forward, I'm like, why didn't I go to the races or what? But I really did enjoy it. But all my buddies were either crew chiefs or whatever. And then one traveled with Willie Nelson and Bo Cephas. When he got back, he had to go to alcohol treatment. So that tells you about that lifestyle. But my wife,
Yeah.
one of my wife's favorite performers is Lenny Kravitz. And of course, you
Yeah.
have a Lenny Kravitz story.
I have a few Lenny Kravitz
Oh yeah,
stories,
give them to us. Give it to me.
but I just love Lenny. One of the I don't even know if I'd heard him before. One of my night jocks in Bakersfield, he actually did X Factor Radio. It was an alternative show we did on Sunday nights. He'd play a lot of Lenny, and I'm like, dude, this is good stuff. And we started playing It Ain't Over Till It's Over, which I loved. It was a big pop hit
Oh
for
yeah,
us. And we were a pop station that was kind of rhythmic. We played dance. We played, a good variety. Our target was 18 to 34-year-old women, and we were winning big. And so Lenny Kravitz was a great artist. We started playing more and more of it. I remember wanting to play "What the F Are We Saying"
right.
on off that album, and we played it overnight. So overnight you get away with anything. And I remember Michael Plain one day sending me an edit, and I started playing it, and the audience loved
Right.
it. And anyway, we played it. I got a gold album or a platinum album or whatever for it. About a year later, there was a job opening in Los Angeles for the Virgin Records local promo guy. And I'm like, that's it. This is how I'm getting into the
That's
music
it.
business. I mean, I love music. I want to get in the music business. I'm kind of a guitar hack. I'm not great, but I taught myself how to play guitar when I was younger. And so anyway, I call Michael Plen, and he goes, "Well, let's go to the Lenny Kravitz concert tonight." I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be great."
Yeah.
So we're like second, third row watching Lenny, and after the show's over, he and I go around back, and Lenny comes out and he pulls it out and fires one up, and he's like, "This is the guy that's playing, first of all your tracks."
Right.
And I went back to his older albums. And we were playing album tracks, the great songs.
Oh
The
yeah.
audience loved them.
Yeah, they
They
were.
heard them other places. Radio is not the only place people get music.
Oh
So
yeah.
back then, a lot of programs directors thought it was. So anyway, he's like, "No, man, you don't want to be in the music business. You got the job. You're the guy that plays my stuff. You're the guy that exposes. That's the job." And I'm like, "No, I never thought of it like that, right?"
Yep.
And so he um, basically, goes, "The music business, it's not about music. It's
Yeah.
about numbers. It's about sales." He goes, "You don't want to do that. You'd hate that." And so I was like, "Right on, very cool. I appreciate it." By then we were just very chill. And so we left. I don't know if that's the night that he rode with me. We left. I one night we had dinner and we're going to a concert, and he left his what he puts his hair
Oh
in,
yeah.
basically
Yeah.
just this huge hat. He left it in my truck. So Michael Plain called and said, "Lenny wants it back."
I'm keeping it.
What? Oh, right?
That's a cool
Um,
hat, man.
but yeah, later, when I was in Kansas City on Mix 93 on my birthday one time, I get this phone call, and it's Lenny wishing me a happy birthday. And that's happened a few times. And it's just amazing. Some of these guys, the fact they remembered me. And I don't know if he would today. I mean, that's been a few years. But someday I want to take my daughter to a Lenny
Oh
Kravitz
yeah.
concert. I hope he comes to Seattle because she loves good music. And I think she'd love the show.
Yeah, you've raised her right because you've raised her on music, on good stuff, the stuff we like, everything. Now, are y'all concertees? Do y'all take her to as many shows as you can take her to?
Well, so when she was born, she had 85% blockage in her ears, so she couldn't really hear. So she had to have these little tubes put in. She cannot handle loud music for long. Any concert we've gone to, she's had to either wear the headphones or the earplugs. We've gone to a number of shows. We took her to Hall and Oates when they came through here a few years ago at the fair, just because there's so many great
Oh
songs,
yeah.
right? And
Oh yeah.
and a friend of mine hooked us up with tickets, and we went to the show. And afterwards, she goes, "It was okay." And now, a couple of years ago, she goes, I didn't realize how great they were.
Mm-hmm.
They really have a lot of good songs. We're like, yeah, they do. One of her favorites was Melanie Martinez. That's like the only concert she ever asked, hey, can we go to that? So we bought her tickets. But we went to Pink. Um, she didn't want to go to Madonna with us. Julie scored some like amazing
Right.
tickets to Madonna a few years ago. But you know, we got tickets to concerts for years for free. All these things were
Oh yeah.
free, and I never. You don't think twice about it,
Nope.
right? You're just
Yep.
spoiled. All these things that happen. So now looking at, am I going to pay $300 to
Yeah.
go see a concert
Yeah.
and pay $100 for parking and stuff?
Yeah.
So we see what we want to see, but there's too many people. Julie does not like to be around a lot of people, and Leah really the loud music is keeps her from it. But I foresee us seeing concerts, but not as many as even back in the day. I mean, I probably saw Prince is one of my favorite artists, and
Oh
I
yeah.
saw maybe eight or nine Prince shows in one year, and it was to the point where I knew the last song, so. And every night, sometimes it was a little different, but I'd leave 2 or 3 songs before the end of the show
Yeah.
because I didn't want to sit in the parking lot. That's
Oh
how spoiled.
boy. I understand, man. Prince, 85, Purple Rain was the best show I've ever seen. Yeah, it's funny. We
Yeah.
knew we had raised our son correctly when we took him to Def Leppard, we took him to Styx, we took him to REO, we took him to Skid Row, we took him to, and he knew all the words. And he wanted a
Wow.
T-shirt. And I look over, and poor kid can't sing, but he knows every word. And I was just like, tears, tears. I've done a good
Yeah.
job. He loved
Yeah. You
Kiss.
did well.
I took him to see
Yep.
Ted Nugent because
Wow.
Derek had just come back. So I sat
Okay.
with Derek, St. Holmes' sister, and
Okay.
she was giving us the okay. Why did they reunite? One of the I forgot how tight they were, and Ted's an acquired taste. And I said earmuffs, and I said forget it. This is Ted Nugent. There's no reason we're going. You'll never hear the show. But he got the wide variety of rock and roll, and now he's like Metallica. He's a big Metallica fan. We
Yeah.
gave him a whole range of stuff from gospel to heavy metal, and now he listens to all of it. So we think we did a pretty good
Awesome.
job as parents.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, music, there's nothing like music. Music touches your heartstrings. The first time you hear a song, if that song touched a heartstring, if
Yeah.
that song gave you something, you felt something for the rest of your life, when you hear that song, it'll take you right back.
Yeah, I
Now,
was.
sadly, in radio,
Yeah.
we burn ourselves out on songs. So
Oh
you hear
yes.
something so many times that you get to the point where you just can't hear it anymore. But, later in life now, I'll hear things and I'll never forget, the, where I was when I heard that song.
Oh yeah, it's. I always tell people it's a memory jogger. When I'm writing shows and stuff, I'll go back and listen to stuff from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 50s, whatever. That reminds me of an event. Like for today, I was listening to 80s stuff because I used to plot because I was a stage performer and perform vocally. And I wanted to be on radio. I didn't really want to do that for a living. And there, fast forward 20 years later, and I was. And you were a huge part of helping me get syndicated. And now let's go to family because we're talking about radio. Leah, the apple of your eye, your young daughter. Can you give us a brief and folks? This story is absolutely amazing. What Steve and Julie have been through with Leah, and she's been through. But it's so triumphant and a great family. You see the photos, and it's like they're a Hallmark story. But can you give us a little brief synopsis of what took place with her?
Wow. 20
Yeah.
years ago, I had a date with Julie. 20 years ago in October, I had my first date with Julie. I can't believe we're still together, right? Um, I've never dated anybody longer than 4 or 5 years, and my marriage has never lasted that long. But when I first met her, she's like, look, I'm adopting a baby girl. If you have no interest in being a father, first of all, she couldn't believe I wasn't already a dad.
Right.
She goes, if you have no interest, she goes, it was nice meeting you. And my line was, well, if I
Wow.
know you, then, we should get to know each other a little more before you ask me to be your baby daddy.
Right.
It was a 4 year process. It took 4 years for that adoption to happen. And I
Wow.
remember the third year, she just broke down in tears because on the list of the adoption list, she hadn't moved. There was still like 1,900 people ahead of her.
Wow.
And I said, well, what can you do to make this go faster? And she got a hold of the agency and they said, well, if you would move to a special needs list, there are children with special needs
Right.
that need families too, and most people are afraid of those children because maybe they're too much work. And so Julie went and looked at this and started checking off. I would be okay to this and this and this. I mean, lighter skin was a need, and this was an
Right.
adoption
Yeah.
agency that specialized in bringing, kids out of China. I mean, China had the one kid rule. If you had two kids,
Yeah.
you had to get rid of one,
Yeah.
or they would take it. So anyway, fast forward to today, we are in Beijing 16 years ago today, 15, 16 years ago. Leah will be seven. Leah is now 17. So yeah, I mean, we got her when she was
Wow.
20 months. Um, that was just an incredible journey. She was born with a cleft lip and palate. She was a preemie. She was about the size of, what I say, a tall boy
Oh
beer
yeah.
can or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, Amanda at Starfish literally with a dropper fed her to keep her alive under a heat lamp, and this is the
Wow.
best thing that's ever happened to me. The gift, I had no idea being a dad would be so enriching and so powerful. I mean, I think, I don't know, maybe we all have a hole in our heart, but she's
Right.
totally filled that hole. And she was daddy's girl in China in the very beginning. It was I'm tearing up here. It was all about me. She was in a starfish foster home or adoption, whatever.
Right.
It was the starfish in Xi'an, China. There was like 30 or 40 kids there, and two or three nannies, and so they were all women. And I might have been maybe one of the first kind
Right.
of
Men.
relationships
Yeah.
with a man. So she was daddy's girl from early on, and I think Julie was a little hurt, but it didn't take long for her to start saying mommy.
Yeah.
But it's been an amazing journey. She's had 12 surgeries on
Wow.
her mouth. Was a cleft lip and palate. When we brought her home, the Smile Train had already closed the hole up in her lip, but she had no roof to her mouth. She had
Wow.
no gum up here on this side, and so the process of going through that with her has been. She's strong. It always it's always I'm I don't somebody said it's rougher on the parents. I don't know if that's true, but it's just you're
Right.
just your heart breaks. She just had jaw surgery. They told her when she was younger that this underbite is going to get more pronounced, and you don't know what that means. And
Right.
so when she was 12 and they did the last one to try to fix her
Right.
her gum up here because she didn't have any bone, they they're magic at Children's Hospital. She said no more surgeries, Dad. I no more. And I said
Right.
this is your life. This is you. You do
Yeah.
not have to do any of this. It's up to you. And so last year they started talking to her about, we'll do this and we can bring the top of your mouth forward and even up
Right.
your teeth. And when they showed us the video, it looks like they cut her skull here,
Ooh.
and they bring it forward to match with their teeth, and then they use what looks like an exactor. You remember
Yeah.
the old metal pieces of metal with little screws?
Yep.
They did that to her, and she was in the hospital overnight. We were actually in and out on that one
Right.
quicker than any of her other surgeries, which blew my mind.
Right.
And she was very swollen. The swelling has come down now. We're at week 4. 2 more weeks of basically soft food only. First 3 weeks was liquid only. But she can't wait for French fries and grilled cheese. But she's amazing. She's got a 3.97 grade point average. If this was my kid, they'd be failing. I did not have the skills. I mean, she's just super smart, and she's very empathetic. When she was younger, some of her friends called her mom because she was the one that was
Right.
the calm, cool, the one with the big heart, and she's amazing. I mean, I know she's going to do big things to change the world, and kids today that have that mindset that
Oh yeah.
want to go out and change the world, they're going to.
Yeah. Now, what's she want to do? What's her interest right now?
So she goes to the Science and Math Institute. She's
Mm.
already in a high school that only has 500 students
Right.
at the zoo and aquarium. And so she really is leaning into science and stuff. And I think while she's does a good job at math. She's leaning into the bio stuff almost. She wants to be behind the scenes. At one point, we thought she might want to be a vet or work in the aquarium. She has
Right.
those opportunities because she's right there in the zoo. But she's still not quite sure. But she loved. We did a tour of UBC up in Vancouver. It was gorgeous. But that's a long way away. That's three
Oh, yeah.
hours, and
Yeah.
I don't think she wants to be 3 hours from us. So I think she's looking in the Seattle area. But
University of
I'm not
Washington's
quite
not that far.
100% sure.
Yeah, she could go to
Pardon?
Washington.
She's right. I mean, we're
That's
20
close.
miles from
Yeah.
UW. Seattle, we're 10
Yeah.
miles from UW Tacoma. Yeah.
Yeah, and catch some
Yeah.
football and good athletics there. If you're wondering, Steve's located right outside of Seattle. The thing is, it's you, Julie, Leah. Every time I look on Instagram or whatever, you guys do look like a Hallmark card. The closeness is like the three amigos and the dog, and it seems like you guys
We
do
have
so
two
much
dogs.
together. Two dogs,
Yes.
and y'all seem like the family that does everything together.
We do a lot
Yeah.
together. I mean, you look, I mean, here's the thing. The thing about being a late in life dad, I
Oh
would have
yeah.
been, and some people are great at it when it happens to them,
Right.
whether they planned it or not. I don't think I was so, I want to say I was selfish, but my dad left when I was just a baby, so I never got to know my dad. My mom worked 3 jobs to pay the bills. We raised ourselves watching TV.
Right.
I've spent summers on the farm with my grandparents and working with my cousins and stuff. And when I got into radio, it was a different world.
Yeah.
And so I got to tell you that was a priority. There were girlfriends and even an ex-wife that said it's me or the job, right?
Right.
And I kept the job. So being for me a late in life dad, more mature, it's
Yeah.
not all about my job. For years it was all about my job. I was doing 2 or 3 club nights a week, and what that means is I'd go to the
Wow.
club, I'd be the DJ, and I'd
Yeah.
entertain, and I get some Skrilla. Um,
Yeah.
so that was life for me. When I had met Julie, in gosh, 2005, 2006 now. Yeah, 2006. Um, I was working at, I think, Mix 100 uh, downtown Denver. I think I might have still been at Jones Radio Network, and I just launched Talent Farm.
Right.
Rusty and Mancow were a couple of morning guys that did top 40 radio for me back in the 90s, and they were looking for somebody who knew radio, who knew how to talk radio, who knew how to help them grow into more radio stations. And so I picked them up, and we started doing that. It wasn't long after that you and I started working together.
Yep.
Um, but I just was in a better place, and I think I was always empathetic because I was picked on and bullied as a kid, so I always had. But I was a bit of an introvert, and radio kind of I taught myself to be an extrovert. I still think I'm still a bit of an introvert, but all of those things made me a better dad. And my Julie gave me some books. You got to read this. You got to read this. You got to read this. Love and Logic,
Right.
and it's really, there's some reverse psychology stuff that I've watched happen over the years. I'm like, oh, that's very interesting how that works, right? And when you make it their idea, you give them an
Mm-hmm.
option.
Yep.
No, you can't do that. They're going to do that. But, well, we got this or this. And Leah has made just the right decisions all along. And Julie is the brains behind it. And I'm the fun dad, and sometimes that makes her mad because
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
really not a good disciplinarian. And she gets upset with that. How come I have to make all the hard decisions? Well, you're the mom. That's your job.
She's my baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a stern disciplinarian, but I do it in a matter of fact way. So I've already
Yeah.
explained all the rules, and I go, okay. Now, and this is how I discipline. All right, you broke the rule. You know you broke the rule. You know the consequences. Let's go. That's it. I don't yell.
Pick
I
your
don't scream. I
punishment.
don't. I don't. You know what's coming.
Yeah.
Let's get with it.
Right.
Okay. But normally, if you do it that way and they self-monitor,
Yeah.
you don't ever have to
Yeah.
discipline. They do it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I had great family growing up. My dad was an ass, and I never got to know him. And when I did get to know him, he told me I was stupid
Oh wow. Yeah.
for being in the radio business. And, radio had given me so much. I was 18 and he's telling me I'm stupid. So that, there's still some pain there. I've still never learned to forgive
Oh,
him.
yeah.
I was watching one of your shows the other day. You were talking about forgiveness.
Right.
That is a tough nut to crack, man. Especially when it's your dad, right?
Yep.
So my grandparents were amazing. They were just love. They'd do anything for anybody, and they never said anything bad about anybody. And I never heard, it's just. And as I got older and learned more, everybody talks about how great they were, and
Yeah.
my whole family they're all that way. They're just these people from Nebraska. They are the
Yeah.
salt of the earth. They're good people. They're hardworking and they're honest. And so I have a good pedigree, I guess. But I'm lucky that look, my brother had kids when he was younger, and
Yeah.
it was tough on him. It was tough on them, and I know he went through a lot of heartbreak over the years, and it's sad. And so just experiencing that through other people, I didn't. I'm glad, you know,
Yeah.
I'm glad I waited, I guess. And I didn't. Still, I never had kids, but Julie started that adoption process, and then we became parents. And
Yeah.
it's the best thing. The
Yeah.
best thing that's ever happened to
And you
me is
talk
being
about
a dad.
a happy ending. It's so funny to listen to your story and listen to Nikki Sixx's story. It sounds like you guys
Really?
grew up in the same family. Yeah, I mean, go if you ever get a chance, go listen to Nikki Sixx's story. It sounds just like yours. And
Nikki was on one of our we launched Recovery Radio Live out of Miami years ago with Ricky Lee, and Nikki was on one of the first shows.
yeah,
And
it's amazing.
I remember, yeah, yeah.
The fact that they go to L.A., they don't really have any talent. It's still questionable if he can still play the bass. He and Gene Simmons, but look what they've achieved. Look at what you've achieved. Now let me ask you this. As we wind up here. If somebody like you and I, we used to dream about being Wolfman Jack, and these kids don't even know who that is, because you and I got to grow up, I think, in the best time of radio. The 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and we got the golden age. Now, they probably said the golden age is in the 50s, but I think we got it. American Graffiti, all this stuff. What would you tell somebody right now wanting to get into this gig, in this business?
Well, there's never been a better time
Yeah,
to be creative, to be expressive, to develop your talents. There was gatekeepers when we
yeah,
wanted to get in.
yep,
And to get a radio job was not easy. You could go, you could knock on the door. I got to tell you, I went multiple times, and the guy just saw my persistence, and I got a gig through knowing somebody. That's a different story, but I can tell you that right now, if you are funny, if you are engaging, if you can hold a train of thought and
right,
entertain people, um, whatever it is, YouTube, TikTok, that's where it's at. Instagram and Facebook, but the money is YouTube.
yep,
And so as a content creator, if you know something, if you can talk about something, if you have an opinion about something, if you're just funny, whatever it is, create and get it out there, and get it out there 4 or 5 times a day, and put it into heavy rotation. And at that point, when you start to develop a following, when something goes viral, that's going to give you a platform, and that could get you on the radio. But the reality is, radio doesn't, it never paid a lot when we were young. I
no,
got to a point where I was making great money, a lot of money. I mean, one year, a monster bonus.
right,
But it's not there for the majority of people. The
right,
majority of people on the radio aren't making much money at all, and probably have a second or third job
yep,
to just to pay the bills and live in those
yes,
cities.
yes,
But right now, the influencers that are for tomorrow, you look at all these artists that put their music out there on YouTube, and now they're huge. Think of all the artists we know that
oh
became
yeah,
pop artists or country artists from just getting their stuff on YouTube. Well, because the internet makes everything free, and
yeah,
you set up you've got a beautiful studio you
yeah,
set up. You've got this opportunity now to communicate with everybody. When you came to me, you were on one radio station. We wanted to get you on a few radio
yeah,
stations, and that's hard to do because
yep,
number one, people, well, who is this guy? And
yep,
well, here, just listen to the demo. Well, getting them to listen to the demo is
yep,
90% of the battle. And
yep,
you can call somebody 6 times and talk to them 3 times, and still, oh, I haven't heard it yet. I'm going to get to that.
yep.
Unless you show up and get in their face and say, okay, here, let's listen to it together, you're not ever sure they heard it. So right now, if you're really good, like what you're doing right now, providing um, health,
Yeah.
mental health,
Yeah.
love, and logic, and putting it out there and using examples of your life and other life, people you've helped, because we all have something that kind of relates to something. Whether
Yes.
my past is kind of like Nikki Sixx's or whatever,
Yeah.
I didn't had no idea, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nikki, but the reality is now is the best time, and TikTok is a good place to put something short. It's short and sweet and get it out there. YouTube though, YouTube where it's at. The
Yeah.
largest, I mean, they're one of the biggest companies in the world. They make all the money's there. And so
Yeah.
content ID, here's the trick. Make sure you're claiming your content ID. If
Yeah.
you're not, you're never going to get paid. But once you see spots, once all of a sudden you have to hit skip after 4 seconds of a spot runs, somebody's making money off your YouTube. And if it's not you, then YouTube's making money off you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's you. So content ID, look up how do I claim content ID.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to a teenager a couple weeks ago, and I said, you know, when I was your age, I used to have to wait for my song to be played. I didn't know when it would be played, but I knew the stations it might have a chance. And they looked at me and went, "Well, why would you do
What?
that?" And yeah, it's like you don't understand how much technology has increased
Yeah.
since I was a kid. You know, when we used to have to let the TV warm up so it would work, or my job on NFL Sundays was to stand beside the TV and move the antenna, or I had to go up on the
Antenna.
roof
Wow.
and change the antenna because I was
the
also
dish.
I was the remote control for my father. Hey, turn that to channel 3. I don't miss those days. Hey man,
Yeah.
thanks so much for coming by. Tell Julie and Leah we wish them all the best. The reason I don't have a
you.
picture of his
Same
family.
to you, Patricia.
Yeah, I don't put people's families' pictures up on my show. You can go by talentfarm.net. Check out Steve. Check out his talent. You don't know who he's got in his farm. I tell you what, some of the best people and personalities on radio you represent, and you've helped get started. And I've heard every one of their shows. And it's funny because Steve was my agent, and I didn't even know who was on the talent thing. And then I saw it, and I was like, oh, my God, I'm already listening to all their shows. So if you get a chance, go by talentfarm.net. Check him out. Check out what he's doing. You got any other projects going on people need to know about?
The Wolfman documentary's coming out. That's going to be huge. His show's getting bigger and bigger. I mean, I think, that's good. Charlie Tuna's back in. We've got Kylie Summers on in a bunch of markets now. Randy Brooks. I work with Will Morgan, the Will's Audio Lab.
Right.
He's an amazing producer. And then Alpha Libraries is my big beast. All the major artists and musicians and producers in the music business make their music available for production music, not their hit records, but
Right.
maybe a
Right.
sound alike from one of their hit records. So all that is available to radio. We created claimfreemusic.com for shows like this, for YouTube, for
Right.
anybody who needs production music. If you want to have those kind of production values, think about Jaws without music. Think about Star Wars without
Right.
music.
Right.
The way those movies made you feel, gave you goosebumps.
Yep.
It's production music. That's the value. So that's available for claim free music. We have podcastmusic.com, which is just for podcasts, and those are cheap. It's like $10 a month. So if you need something, if you're wanting to grow something, we've got some amazing products. And again, there's never been a better time for content creators. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you
Yeah.
have a subject, I know a receptionist at a radio station that's a major, she's just like got a super green thumb. She created a podcast. She's making a lot of money off that podcast.
Wow. Well, hey, man, thanks so much for coming by. Talentfarm.net. This is the great Steve Wall. Steve's helped me. The why I'm sitting here is because of the man sitting there. He and my buddy Joel Williams. Joel just got into the Hall of Fame of Radio. He got elected in May. So, and then
Good for him.
Yeah. So Susan King, WGST here in Atlanta, my 3 mentors. You got to see this one today. Hey, man, thanks for coming by. Don't worry, you're going to come back on again. And we're going to tell some more radio stories. But if you want to live your dreams, you're looking at somebody right now that has been able to live the American dream, the family, the job, the career, and he's still doing things he loves, and he gave sage advice. So if you'll just do what he's just told you to do, I got a feeling you're going to have a pretty good career. Steve, thanks so much for dropping by today. All right, mailbag time. All right, so now I went a little longer because I wanted Steve to be able to talk. He's like my brother from another mother. He's my mentor. I've learned so much about the radio business from him. And I just wanted him the chance to talk about the dream. We talk about living your dream here on this show. And it's always great when you bring a practical guest on that can walk you through methodically on how to do it. He's got the woman, he's got the child, he's got the career, he's got the destiny, he's got the vision, and the caretaker of two of the most talented people I've ever seen, Tuna and Wolfman Jack. If you don't know who they are, check them out on YouTube. Rick Dees, he talked about. These are things that were around when Steve and I were kids. But great stuff, great music, great times. I still think Steve is part of some of the best radio in history, and every radio station he was on was absolutely amazing. So, great having him on. I'll have him back. Don't worry. All right, mailbag time. Now, remember, if you've got something for us, show at scotferrell.com. Remember, it's 1T in Scott. Now, if you need our services, I own a consulting company where I coach people, business and family. You got a problem, we help solve it. ScotFerrell.com is how you reach me. All right. So now we got Peggy from North Carolina. My third grader is struggling in school. What do I do? Well, what are they struggling with? Is it reading, writing, arithmetic, the 3 R's? Is it the people in the school? Is it the administration? Is it the other kids? So I'm gonna take this as academic. Normally, that's why people address this. What's going on? Is it math? Is it reading? I have dyslexia, so reading's not exactly my first language, you know what I mean? So I always had to have somebody read to me. So school was difficult for me when it came reading and writing, but I was pretty good at math and science. Get a tutor. That's what I always tell people. Tutors are, $30-$40 an hour. It's the best investment you're going to make. Yes, you want your kids to be able to read and write. If they have something like my issues, I never really learned how to write correctly. I still have a mishmash of writing. It looks like I could have gone to medical school because my handwriting's that bad. But I can remember things. I can listen to a whole lecture and remember the whole lecture, then go teach it. Thank God. And I got my oral skills down. But if that's not the case, just get a tutor. There's plenty of tutoring companies. I don't know, in North Carolina, I don't know where they live. Some of the big ones, some of the small ones, a lot of the teachers at the school actually tutor. I don't know what the rules are at your school, but sometimes you can actually tutor your own students. So just look into a tutor. If it's not academic, that's a whole different story, but I'll take this as academic. Sometimes hall school is the answer. Sometimes it's a co-op. I know in the state of North Carolina, they have a lot of co-ops. A pastor friend of mine is in the Albemarle location. Albemarle is about 30 miles outside of at Charlotte. They have a co-op there. So it's whatever fits you. But tutor, it's worth the investment. Trust me. All right, next one. We've got Phil from the state of Georgia, from the Atlanta area. I'm leaving the military. What do I do once I leave? All right. Our government does not do the best job of getting military active duty personnel ready for non-active duty life. That's a deficit we have. So here's how I answer this question. It's no different than graduating from high school, waking up one day tired of your job, same thing. I don't know what your specialty was in the military, and it varies, but what do you want? First thing you do when you leave the military, before you do, because a lot of times when your date's approaching, so you got a little time. Not everybody does. I could tell a bazillion stories, but most do. So the date's coming up, so make a list. What do I want? And then once you do what do I want, most people can never even get past 5 things. What am I good at? What could I go pro in? What is my skill set? What do I, from my skill set, have to offer to the world that I can make money from? Now, normally if we operate in our skill set, we actually enjoyed what we're doing. It's when we operate totally out of our skill set for a paycheck. So we trade dollars for hours, and everybody does that, but what I'm saying is you got to enjoy it to an extent. Well, you've got an opportunity. Getting out of the military, I don't know what your situation is. Are you retiring? Is it early, no hitch? Is it what is it? Do you have disability? But once you make that list, talk it over with your family, figure out where you want to live, and then you have this exciting chapter of you always want to make your future and walk in it. You want to proclaim it, write it down, get it set, go walk in it. What's that future look like not as a soldier? Well, for one, you're not up at 4 in the morning, and people aren't shooting you at anymore unless you go to be a cop, hopefully. So what is it? What do you want? It's that simple. What do I want? What am I great at? What could I go pro in? Can I make money from it? How do I implement the steps to go do that? That's how you do this. Once you make the decision, it's great because I made a decision to X. Okay. Well, now you've made the decision, what you want, what your skill set is, how to go pro in it. Do you need to use the GI Bill to go back to college? Do you need more education? Do you have an undergraduate and now you need a master's, or do you have a PhD on your mind you want to get done? What is the approach of where your kids want to live, where your wife want to live, where your husband want to live? Depending on the personnel, what are your options? Is it a foreign country? Is it the United States? There's so many things. And then on top of this, we don't get the spouse and the kids ready because it's a huge change. If you've ever received a soldier back from war, it's an adjustment period. A lot of people don't understand it. They don't understand the needs of the family or the soldier. You have to get everybody on the same page to be able to do this the right way. And a lot of times we don't, and a lot of people don't put enough thought into it. But you sit down as a family, man. I have a whiteboard I use for everything. And you work it out on the whiteboard, all right? And now we're going to be together. I'm going to be home. I'm not going overseas anymore. I'm not going to be called out in the middle of the night. What do we want to do? How's this look? What's your family's decision on what you want to do? Where are we living? What do I need to make? What's it look like? What does the school system look like, or am I homeschooling? What's this going to be 10 years from now, 5 years from now, next year? All these things, if you'll work through these things. Because a lot of guys get home, it's like being a salesman. You retire for 35 years and now you're home. A lot of people get divorced after that because I'm used to you being here Monday through Friday and now you're here and I'm going to strangle you if you're at home any longer. Yeah, you don't want to do that. So it always takes a little time when you come back. When you've been on deployment, you come back, everybody's got to readjust. And it takes days for this to happen. But now it's going to be permanent. So you really need a plan that you can work through methodically, get everybody emotionally ready because you've been gone. Now you're back. Mom's been in charge. Now, what's the dynamic in the family? Mom's just not going to give up control overnight. The kids aren't used to you being there. You're going to disrupt every schedule of every single person in this family. There's a lot to work through. Sometimes it's just easier to be in the military. Somebody tells you what to do, what time to do it, where to live, what base, what you're going to do. And now you've got so many choices when you get out. It can be overwhelming. Many people don't handle it very well. So my heart goes out to you. My company actually helps with that, scotferrell.com, if you have any questions. All right, as we wrap it up, I'm going to go to talentfarm.net. Steve is wonderful. His music's wonderful. Charlie Tuna and Wolfman Jack. Oh, my gosh. You do not want to miss these guys. I am telling you, we were kids during the golden age of radio. All right, remember, like and subscribe. Also, if you're in Somerville, Georgia, go to Dirt Poor, man. It's the best coffee out there. And pick up a sausage ball. In addition to that, get some of the wonderful muffins. They are so tasty. All right, I'm Scot Ferrell. I'll see you next time. Take care.